Welcome to Future Forward, the show that unravels the practical stories of AI's transformative power in the world of business. In this dynamic show, we go beyond the buzzwords and industry hype to explore the real-world applications and groundbreaking innovations that AI brings to professionals like you.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Future Forward. Today we'll be talking about generative AI and the role of generative AI in learning, development, and education. With us today is Ben Kirby, the global lead of learning and development at Teleperformance. Welcome, Ben. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Ben, like most of us, generative AI, GPT, the hype, it must be controlling your agenda today as well. Do you already see some changes?
Yeah, very much so. I think it's both at the forefront of all our conversations with the vendors that we work with and how they're looking to integrate it even further into the tools and software we have with them, and also internally on a lot of our own developments that we have. Very much is the focus of what we're doing right now, and I think there's a lot of great opportunity to make us more productive with a little bit of caution, but I think there's great opportunity to make L&D teams much more efficient in how we do things.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So I think everyone's played around with ChatGPT by now and seeing that it generates this create responses of emails or essays and things like that. So
yeah,
if you talk about creative content generation that Gen AI can do awesomely, are you seeing some changes in the development industry there as well?
Yeah, I think so. And I think just to give a couple of use cases, I think when you create a training program, there's often large-scale research that goes on. There's full training needs analysis. You speak to a lot of the subject matter experts. And I think sometimes there is a demand for pretty rapid content on certain subjects. So I think the use of things like ChatGPT can really help potentially speed up that process where we can use ChatGPT to source a lot of that information, bring it together, and then even summarize it, because sometimes when you're not the subject matter expert and you have to build content, it's the summarizing all that information that takes quite a lot of time to articulate. So by doing that, using ChatGPT to summarize, you have quite a good opportunity to go back to the expert quite quickly, really, with a video or some form of content and say, right, here's our starting point. Let's try to work from here. And I think if you scale that up across Teleperformance and kind of longer style programs, there's a lot we can do with clients to try to improve the efficiency of what we do, even at that kind of quite basic level.
Oh, that's really interesting, and I can imagine that if you're having such a dynamic, powerful tool to create that training content, can you then also adopt it for like individual purposes?
Yeah, and I think that's really going to be a knock-on effect of it. I think there's going to be a lot more personalization for individuals, and I think to the extent whereby not only will platforms be able to identify for individuals content that is relevant to them, I think also we'll be in a situation where content itself, as you take it, will start identifying very much this person needs to focus in on these kind of areas, much more so than now.
So almost creating personal learning paths, right?
Yeah, very much so. And I think there is so much information out there now that generative AI is starting to use. I think one thing as well around skills, I think the ability to pull in information from all the information sources out there around skills as a company, you'll be able to map against individuals potentially how your skill level is versus the marketplace, and so much opportunity to then tailor learning paths based on that. So yes, lots of opportunity for the training industry to really take advantage of this to make better learning experiences for everybody.
Yeah, and I fully agree. This is a big deal, right? But for the people who are not that familiar in the industry, can you perhaps a little bit elaborate on the differences And what I'm particularly interested in is how it's perceived by the employees themselves, right? The learners.
I think there's probably going to be a greater volume of content created, because I think there's probably opportunity to create quicker to market content. So that in itself, I think, would always be a bonus. I think the format in which the content is delivered to an individual will change. I think you'll probably start to see a lot more kind of learning in the flow of work. So the days of going to your LMS platform, taking a traditional e-learning, I think that will probably reduce slightly, and you're already starting to see things in Teams and other integrations where things will just pop up because that's what you need to know at that given point of time. So I think the use of AI will be very powerful in that during your workday. And then I think also in terms of other forms, I think there will be greater opportunity to use AI to start doing a bit more around some of the other things, simulations, using augmented reality, etc., with some of the generative AI connected to it.
Yeah, I agree. I understand your point. You know, if the AI can establish those skill gaps, then they can offer micro learnings at the point, basically creating continuously learning, right? So
yeah,
if that's how you envision it inside the operation.
I think so, yes. And I think one of the other big areas of opportunity, particularly in what we do, is the opportunity to develop simulations further as well. So right now, that's a key element of what we do in terms of skill development. And we're starting to see both internally with our tools and externally the integration of AI to actually enable us to practice more without having the need to have another human with us, which is very powerful if we're able to have that opportunity to practice on an area that we may be particularly struggling with in the workplace. So just to give a non-specific example to us, something like performance management, you might be having a conversation with an employee, but to actually be able to have something as a practice, you could speak to a avatar character online, say you need to talk about X, Y, Z, and I think having those kind of simulations and practice conversations will only enhance the employee experience, because the person on the end of that performance review is going to have a better experience, and actually the manager is going to develop their skills and feel much more confident as a result.
Yeah, that's really cool. When you were talking about simulation, I was thinking about more the hard skills, right? So where the AI could play the customer and it's basically testing your knowledge on the topic. But even for soft skills, being able to practice, for instance, a bad news conversation, which I think
sales presentations, even to an audience, it is, you're right, because of what we do, we probably automatically think of some of the harder skills, and yes, definitely there's a lot going on regarding practicing those conversations with customers, but actually developing some of the softer skills, particularly in the world we're moving towards, where emotional intelligence and things are becoming even more important. I think there's a lot of use to start simulating those areas as well.
At Teleperformance, we have a lot of global clients, and I think one of the issues that we've been struggling in the past is like global consistency. So how does that work on the learning and development point, and how can generative AI support there?
I think there'll be probably a mix of some of the things we've talked about, and then we'll probably factor in a couple of other interesting things that will come about. We know that when you work with global clients, I think the L&D industry has always had challenges with making translations quickly, whereas with some of the use of generative AI, the language translation ability is one of the things that's really, I think, kind of increasing in quality at the most rapid pace. So we're seeing our vendors integrate a lot regarding translations, to the point where some of them you're now able to create content, pretty much export to as many languages as you want, and share it. And obviously you'd still want the quality checks, etc. But to get to that point that somebody can just validate it will mean for our major global clients a lot more consistency in how we deliver things globally, because suddenly we've become scalable to multiple geographies. I mean, I think the other thing that I think will be interesting with some of our major clients, I think from conversations, again, I think there's going to be opportunity to have a lot more real-time updates to what we do, because sometimes with particularly the curriculums we work with, which are 1, 2, 3 weeks, to make changes, to make updates to those can take time, and sometimes there's maybe too much focus on the delivery as opposed to the continuous improvement. And I think generative AI may also start to be able to real time start updating some of these trainings. So I'm just coming up with an example immediately off the top of my head, but maybe a company's facts and figures, financial maybe type things. There's probably opportunity in the future that we might not have to go in and do it ourselves as a human and edit it, but there'll be, you'll be able to get it automatically refreshed over time. And that kind of thing from an end user experience, again, let's think of the important bits here, to ensure they're always seeing what is current is really powerful. And for our global clients, I think will have a really big impact.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on a broader scale, right, if I look at what generative AI is already doing with education and how people learn, right? Reading articles where people pass exam just by summarizing the docs of the teacher, right? Not even opening the book anymore, but basically from the lectures, learning on the summaries. And I also like the statement that Bill Gates made around basically giving the third world countries a better chance on a good education with affordable tutoring. So, which I think is something that we can probably, for the employees, would be very interesting, right? Almost having a personal AI as your personal tutor on the topics. So,
yeah, and I think that's an interesting point, because I think it will become a lot easier to have some of that personal growth kind of coming in to all of the platforms that we have, as well as maybe traditionally there's been more focus on some of the business related things. So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, so you have a lot of experience in this industry, and you saw a lot of changes in the industry, right? With the COVID, where we started learning from like classroom training to working from home. So where would you put this, I would say, transformation on learning development in the things that you've seen so far?
I think it's going to be one of the biggest changes that we face, probably like in many other sectors. And I think we have to, it's going to be an important change. It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. So I think you mentioned it earlier about a lot of people have gone in and started to experience it. And I think we have to do that. We have to start seeing how we can make it work successfully, safely, for a better experience for people. And having those conversations now and starting to formulate a plan is important to ensure that we are, as a company, leading the way in how we do it and continue to deliver the training that we want to for our clients successfully.
All right, Ben. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting conversation. Lots of useful information. So if you're working on learning and development, take advantage of this. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again in the next episode of Future Forward. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.